All right, Darryl, how you doing? How you been, man?
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to our people. And we're gonna help try and motivate and inspire people to make their way out of the hospitality industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about your background in hospitality when you were in it.
So I came to Vegas in 2008. Worked at Privé, worked at Dre's, I worked at Nine Group. I worked at pretty much every nightclub over the course of about 4 years, 4.5 years. And then I started my own hosting company and I ran my own hosting company. I went back to nightclubs periodically throughout that time, but mostly ran a hosting company until 2016 when regulations got passed, which made hosting tables illegal without a promoter license. And so that's when I really took a step back from nightlife. But through that 8 years or so, from 2008 to 2016, I really scaled up from street promoter, in-house promoter, junior host, then a host, then a senior host, then senior host manager, then director. It was an ascent, and that ascent made me feel like I was involved in something that we were really building, and the sense of connection to that industry was huge. So that's kind of like my story, is why I feel so connected to nightlife, is because 2008 was right when the recession happened, and you couldn't buy. I mean, people weren't buying tables. Like, to sell a table, to sell 5 tables or 10 tables in a week in August of 2008 was big, and that's when I became a VIP host. And so that's when I was, trying to do it with the big guys like Chris Lane, rest in peace. Robbie D, rest in peace. Those are the guys that we were like watching host these tables. Jeff Kovach, and these are like giants. And so I aspired to be like those guys, and I ascended through the ranks. And yeah, then I left in 2016 and kind of dabbled in a little bit in 2019 with Jeff over at Sahara, Jeff Emilio, who I know you worked with at Troy and probably a few other places. But yeah, it's an interesting industry to be in.
So for people who don't know about like being a promoter of working up to a host in Las Vegas, like what exactly is that? I mean, that's like the grind of all grinds.
Yeah, so I got hired as a street promoter, which means they don't pay you anything unless you bring in returns. I brought in so many wristbands. I think it was like 125 girls a night my first 2 weeks, that they put me as in-house, which means they pay you $400 a week so that they can pay you less on wristbands, because they actually realized that they could pay you less. And I wanted the salary. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So I went in-house and I was in-house for 4 weeks. And then Greg Jamalowicz was like, hey, do you want to sell bottles? Like, I can make you a junior host. And they didn't have a junior host. I was the first junior host at Privé, me and Dennis Charles, who knows where that guy is now. But that was me and him were the first two that were picked to be junior host. And so to make that transition from just walking up to girls and getting them to come to the club for free to being able to basically sell dudes bottles, or sell, groups of people bottle service, is a big step in Vegas. It's definitely a sale. There's definitely a skill set that goes with being able to close bottle service deals versus bringing in people.
100%. Especially, I mean, and nowadays you walk up to a stranger on the street and be like, hey, talk to them. The last thing they want to do is like, get away from me. No.
I can't imagine right now trying to walk up to somebody and try to sell bottle service.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. I mean, we walk up, we had to look at, how are you dressed? Could you afford bottle service? Like, we were literally like looking at people's clothing daily to figure out if they could afford a $300 to $500 bottle. And when pool season was around, it was like, okay, what kind of watch do you have? What kind of sunglasses do you have? What kind of flip-flops do you have? And it's crazy, but that's what we had to do in order to be successful out there. Otherwise, you're just talking to people that can't spend money. And in the end of the day, you're a salesman. So you have to sell bottles and, raise capital.
It's funny. It's essentially like being a hooker. They have to spot their Johns, what kind of watch, what kind of shoes, what kind of, you're profiling every single person you see, because you don't want to waste your time talking to somebody who obviously, isn't going to pay the bill.
Essentially. I mean, you think about it, there's about 2,000 VIP hosts that would go out every single day, or Friday, Saturday, every single day, and look for people to spend money. And they were successful at it. I mean, there's a lot of us that were very successful at it for many, many, many years. I wasn't the first, obviously, and I'm sure I won't be the last. So, I mean, it's interesting to see, to make that correlation, though, that we were essentially going out and looking for our next mark to buy bottle service.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then, I mean, obviously, when we were back in the day, but then we saw the evolvement of, bottle service and, mainstream DJs and it all. I mean, I think that's what kind of wrecked it all.
I agree. 100%. When it went from, okay, how many people do you have? That's how many bottles you have to buy, to you want dance floor, it's 10K. You want second tier, it's 5K. that was the degradation of the industry as we saw it from about 2010 on to about 2019.
Yeah. I think honestly, bottle service in general. I mean, yeah, it's great to have your own VIP section and stuff. I think that kind of ruined a lot of like nightlife anyway. Because I remember when I used to go out, there was before bottles and stuff. I'd walk around the club, just do laps, meeting people, talking to people, like getting a bunch of girls' phone numbers, all this stuff. And then now people just sit at their table and they're on their phone. They don't even talk to the people next to them anymore. They're just sitting there on their phone. They all look bored out of their mind.
That was the ticketed concert effect of nightlife. That was when anybody could buy a table and you could go on and want tickets and buy a VIP entry for, $50 in a Hakkasan. As long as you had khaki pants and $50, you could get in. That's what ruined nightlife. When they made it that commercial, when it became, okay, if I have $10,000, it doesn't matter if I have 20 dudes. I remember working at Bear for the opposite of this. When we worked at Bear, we couldn't let in all dude groups. You had to have girls with you. And it just made the club better. Privé too. I mean, when we worked at Privé, you had to have a good looking group. It didn't matter if you were able to meet the minimum, because before it was, $5K for the dance floor, 2.5 for second tier and stuff. It was 4 people, 1 bottle. If it was a busy night, it'd be 3 people, 1 bottle. And yeah, you come in, and if you had the wrong looking group, they wouldn't let you in.
Yep. And that's what made it more VIP. Like you said, it's not, is it really VIP if you can go online and book a table and
not
put
at all.
a card down? There's
VIP means nothing anymore. It's crazy.
No, not one bit. And it's funny talking about like the demise of when you could buy tickets. I won't say the venue, but I remember I was at a venue and we had Little John, and the manager's like, Sean, we need girls for Little John. Go find some. So I run around the entire venue, walk outside down the block to the line of people coming in, and I look and I call from outside. There's nothing here above a 5. And by the way, I'm going home. I didn't go back inside. And I asked him the next day, we're at lunch, and I'm like, dude, why is the crowd so garbage? And he's like, we sell tickets online. We can't turn people away. I'm like, and right then I'm like, yeah, this is over. And that venue closed like a year or 2 later.
When that era, I remember that era, because there was 2 types of nightclubs. There was, the big guys that were doing the ticketed DJ events, and we don't have to name names on this podcast. Yeah, I mean, you know who I'm talking about. And then there was that venue you were at, and the venue across the street that I was at. And at that time, it was the same thing. It was like I had promoters that were just giving free entry into my nightclub all night long. How do I sell a table when you can get into my club for free? It takes it's $120 per 4 people off the table on every single proposition for tables. So it's like, it was crazy back then to try to, and we still did it. I mean, that venue I was at, I still sold 10 tables a week, 10, 15 tables a week. But yeah, that was tough times. And I know what you're talking about, where you were at.
Yeah.
I was across the street.
I mean, it really is amazing, just the the evolution of nightlife over the last 20 years. I mean, it's completely different animal. I mean, the stuff we got away with in the year 2000, you couldn't get away with in 2020.
First club I went to was in 04. First club I went to was in 04. It was Club 7. I do not remember leaving that club. It was the most insane night of my life. I think I was barely 21. I think it was 21 for like 2 months. My ex was like, she knew everybody out here and got us in, got us like on the DJ like booth with the DJ. I'm like, I couldn't even believe what was going on.
Yeah, well, it's crazy too. Like now when you go to these mega clubs, if you don't have a table, there's a security guard every 3 feet ushering you. Like you can't sit still. Like you just keep walking until you like get tired and leave, or you pony up the money for a table. Like, okay,
there was a club that had a stamp where if you were general admission, you couldn't even get into the nightclub. You went in through the other side, the outside part of the nightclub, and your stamp wouldn't allow you into the main room.
Yeah. I remember that first club. There was 3 different stamps. Yep. I had all 3 of them. Like, where can I go now? Like, you need another stamp? Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of what, that doesn't exist anymore, but that's what, that was VIP. If you had that 3rd stamp, you're up on that top tier, you made it.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. And it'll be interesting to see how everything bounces back with this. Apparently they're doing New Year's Eve events. I got a promoter hit me up asking me if I had any tables for some pretty big venues that I didn't realize were even open. I know that Jeff and Bo and I were trying to get something off the ground at Artisan, and it's tough to even get that off the ground right now because of the like mandated 50 people minimum and 25% of your capacity.
I don't know how Jeff's been getting around it, but yeah, I still talk to Jeff. He says he's crushing it.
Yeah, I came back. He brought me back to run his door. I still have a foot in nightlife with Jeff and Bo. Those are the only two guys that I really mess around with. But if Jeff calls me to run his door, I come in and do it. And we did it for his Halloween party the day before Halloween at Artisan. And then we did it for an event off the strip on Sahara at some event center where we did well. I mean, sold 10 tables, and
Nice.
you know, there was the guys that you would normally see at after hours events were there. So it was a good crowd.
That's awesome. So now I know you still have a foot in nightlife a little bit, but you know, do you miss like the daily grind of it? Yeah. Everyone asks that question too, says no.
Let's just explain what the daily grind of that meant. That meant getting to the office at noon, sitting through at least one meeting, if not two meetings, then going out on the strip for 4 or 5 hours, trying to find tables, checking in with your bosses because they didn't believe that you were actually out on the strip, then going back to the office at 5 o'clock to make sure that you were actually out on the strip. Then maybe going to get dinner, potentially running home to change your suit because you're now in a suit for 8 hours at that point. And then reporting to the club at 9 o'clock, sometimes 8 o'clock, to do pre-shift and, you know, run the podium and set up the door and all that stuff. And you probably would wrap typically around 3. Now, that's not too bad when you do it 3 nights a week. Like Privé was 3 nights a week. There is some clubs where I was doing that 5 nights a week. And then the other 2 nights, you have the pleasure of going out to other clubs to get complimentary bottle service on outings. Oh, boo.
Yeah, we're literally spending 7 nights a week in nightclubs.
Oh man, I remember there was a point though where I had a night off. Greg J gave us 1 night off, and I would elect to go out on that night.
Yeah,
I don't even understand it, but I was making money and selling tables like at a high velocity, and that's where we got them from. Where these, you know, you go to Blush on a Tuesday, and the table next to you was 3 guys, 3 bottles because it was the win, and now you've got them for 4 or 5 days because it was like a walk up that nobody even cared about.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, a lot of people don't understand, like, you know, when I was bartending, everyone's like, "Oh, you get the best job ever." I'm like, dude, I got to wake up. And then we had guest lists too. So I do the same thing. Wake up at noon, go run around to a pool or something, try to find girls for my guest list, go back home, try and take a nap, go back, set up the bar, bartend all night till, you know, 4, 5, 6 a.m., go home, do it again. So I'd sleep in cycles. I'd sleep like 3, 4 hours in the morning, be up for a few hours, go back, take a nap for 2 hours, then go back to work. It was like the days of getting, you know, 8 hours of sleep and solid sleep and stuff, those didn't exist for years.
No, not at all. And the sleep that you do get is crazy hours. Like I remember I had to black out my room, the windows in my room and everything so that I could sleep because I'd be getting home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and the sun would come up. I was in Centennial. There was like no shade. It would just rise right up and blind me.
Oh, I'd had so many times I'm driving home from work and the sun is up and I'm like, I fall asleep at the stoplight. I'm like,
so at Dre's, you bring sunglasses to work. When you work when I work at Dre's after hours, you bring sunglasses to work because when you come up the stairs and you hit the Bill's floor, this is before the remodel. It might still be there now, but I mean, I know it's there now, but the view, it was all open. So you come up the stairs and it's just Las Vegas Boulevard and sunny 8 o'clock in the morning.
I saw that view hundreds of times over the years. and then you pull out and you see everyone like jogging and you're like,
they're having a great time. You're like,
that was the worst.
I need to get home.
I did that more times than I can count.
No, it's interesting. So yeah, I got out in 2016, and I know that's what this podcast is about. You know, how to get out. The industry we're reminiscing about is fun, but it's also a grind, and it also sucks like most of the time. It's awesome and sucky at the same time.
It also doesn't really exist anymore. The industry that you and I are talking about doesn't really exist anymore.
True.
You know, it was fun then. It stopped being fun, you know, the last couple of years. Then, you know, COVID kind of put a nail in it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how that is happening. I mean, like you said, Jeff somehow seems to be able to pull stuff off, although I know he's got his hands tied like since the last week. I know Tempo is doing stuff too. And then this promoter hit me up, and I don't quote me, but I believe it was Dre's and Win and Marquee that are doing New Year's Eve parties.
I know Marquee is. I'm sure Win it. Yeah, actually, I'm
So what are they just going to do? Reservation only, 25% capacity?
Well, just like they've been doing, it's basically, you know, no GA, you need a reservation, you can't leave your table, so you can't go, you can't.
There's no dance. I haven't been to them. I haven't been to a club besides the that I've helped Jeff with.
Me neither. I'm in a club, I think, since New Year's.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, it's a different lifestyle now. If you can go back and change anything, what do you think it would be?
I probably would pay more attention to the people that I met earlier on because I don't think it would have taken me as long to transition out. I actually wanted to transition out. I didn't come here for this. I was a movie producer in LA. The recession of 12 years ago crushed my career and I needed a way to make money. and Vegas was a way to make money. My ex's family was out here, and her cousin is married to Greg J's sister, so it was like a really interesting way to get into the Privé family. And it was going to be like a 6-month thing. And it didn't turn out to be that way. And I think that that's the biggest regret that I have, is that I didn't just connect with as many people as I could and get out and go back to LA, or, get into tech earlier, because I was meeting a lot of people in tech and I didn't realize it. Like, one of my longest customers, while he was buying bottle service from me, was a VC with Google. And I didn't even realize that he was running Google Fund 1 and Google Fund 2. I didn't even know what that meant back in 2011 or 2012. And then now to come back around full circle, and I'm like, man, that's cool. Like, I could have learned so much more from you had I paid attention, but I was more involved in making sure they just had a great guest experience in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest regret is honing more contacts, taking advantage of the opportunities that I had, and being able to get out faster and cleaner, I think would have been what I would do differently.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people we speak with as well too. It's, when like being a bartender and stuff, a lot of people like, I'm going to put myself through college or something, slinging drinks. It's never supposed to be like a forever thing. But then, the money's good, and the famous last words in Vegas here: one more year, one more season,
yep,
one more summer. And then all of a sudden,
that's exactly it. That money coming in the summer. Like, what you're going to get as soon as March Madness rolls around, and you start actually when CES rolls around, it starts, funneling in. But when March Madness rolls around, and then your phone starts ringing, and then they say you work 1 year, you don't have to work for 10 years. It's legit. You work 1 year, you make the right contacts, your phone will ring for a solid 10 years and you'll have tables. I think it's been about 10 years since I've had to do any work on the strip like that.
Yeah. So now when you were transitioning out, were you like doing nightlife as well, and then doing your other projects and other stuff to get your way out? Were you trying to like doing both?
Yeah. So when the regulations passed, I was fully committed to leaving nightlife. I went to Google. I took a job as a tier 1 phone support for the Google Play Store. 4 different applications under Google, like Google Play Music, Google Play Books, and then all third-party applications on Android platforms. And within 7 weeks, I stock ranked number 1 out of all the agents in the campaign, 300,000 worldwide, and they promoted me to operations. And so at that point, I was able to actually work on like real technology, fixing the operations of the Play campaign. I also got to work on Google Fi and Google Wallet. And so my stint with Google was about a year. I did have a hiccup. I got let go. And I was on unemployment. I was kind of like down and out. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I really can't go back to nightlife. The regulations are crippling. Like, I don't want to do that. And I got involved in crypto, and I got ripped off. The first thing I did, I got ripped off for like $40. And I was like, this is not okay. And in the group that I was in, everybody got ripped off. And I'm like, listen, we can build our own ethical platform. We can build our own ethical cryptocurrency platform. I don't know what that looks like right now, but I can build it. And I got some investors, and we built a forum that, like Jack Colton's forum for nightlife, but for cryptocurrency, where people can go in and talk about stuff. We blogged about different platforms that we're investing in, for the good or the bad, fully neutral. And then we set up a free Bitcoin faucet that gave away free Bitcoin in 2017. And as I was researching this stuff, like 3 weeks in, we realized we could build a hospitality-backed cryptocurrency back to all the things that we were just talking about like 5 minutes ago, the comp bottles and all the access and all the stuff that we had. And that's the crypto. And so that's how I got in. I got out, but still kind of stayed in, was we're scaling a technology for Vegas. And then that just went international and like blew up. I mean, it's crazy how big this thing's gotten since then.
That's huge. Yeah, I'm in some other mastermind groups, and a lot of people are talking about crypto and Bitcoin right now. Like, it's the explosion that's happening.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. We couldn't be happier. It's interesting. So we scaled up to international. We have beachheads in the UK and Singapore and in Sydney at this point. And again, that's all because of my nightlife like connections from people I met, over the 12 years out here. But COVID flatlined it. COVID completely flatlined it. So we're like, well, what do we do? And so we looked at, pivoting our own technology to be the utility on its blockchain to move currencies around. And so now we're actually moving currencies at about 700 to 1,000 transactions a month. And we're watching nightlife. We're watching to see if Vegas comes back online. And if it does, we're going to be here with contactless payment solutions, with the cashless, don't you worry about US dollars. You don't have to transfer your Aussie dollars into US dollars. We're primed and positioned for that. So, as COVID has decimated Las Vegas, we've just keeping an eye on it and keeping our finger on the pulse to to see when it comes back on, because we want to help this town come back. We're not out. We're just we transition to tech, and we don't do day-to-day operations of nightlife anymore per se.
That's awesome, dude.
Thanks, man.
And that's huge too. I mean, we get so many foreign people that come in here, and you just said it. The Aussies converting their currency. I mean, think about all the people that come here internationally that do have to convert their currency over.
You don't have to convert it if you have it in cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. You don't have to do that conversion. And then also, I'm not sure if you would see this as much as we did on the VIP host side, but I'd stand outside of a club and have, $10,000 in hundreds counted out so we could buy the table, because they have to use cash because they have to transfer their money. And so this eliminates that. And that was our whole basis back in 2017 was, remove cash from the transaction so that you're not at risk, counting cash in front of a nightclub. But, again, nightclubs are offline, so we don't really know where that's going to go. But we're just, we keep developing. We have a few other projects in technology, not necessarily in the nightlife realm, but all of this is because of Vegas. All of this is because I worked in Vegas, that it gave me this launch pad to now operate in technology. And the connections that I made selling tables and farming tables and hosting people that are, C-level executives and owners of businesses, the type of people that have disposable income, are now the people that are helping me scale the business as advisors or as, partners.
That's huge. And that's what a lot of people don't understand too. All the contacts you make over the course of your hospitality career will translate later in life. Just keep in contact with those people. And you never know. So someone that you've been serving that's been sitting at your bar, that you've been selling table to for years, you never know, like they can help you later on in life. They might have a job for you. And if you've been building a relationship over all these years, they might want to bring you on. They see how hard of a worker you are. They see you have a great personality. They see, everything, all the good attributes that you can contribute to their business.
And not just the people that you sell tables to, but the people in the industry as well. Third money in on this company was Kalika. Like Kalika's known me for 12 years at this point now. She was third money in on the company. So, I mean, she believed in the product. She believed in the team. She believed in what we could do. And she invested money in us. And that's huge. And that shows that, who we work with throughout the years. Same thing with James Scott, his first advisor on the project. I've known him for probably 6-7 years now. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll come on and I'll help you guys out. And that gave us a leg up to sell a table at Light on the blockchain. The first time anybody's ever done that. So it's those type of connections that allow you to build in other industries, but utilizing your nightlife connections.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so using that too, remember, like you hear the stories about the guys coming in with duffel bags full of cash into the clubs, like they wouldn't have to carry around a duffel bag full of cash anymore.
Nope. And all that stuff with Pure and Privé and the money laundering and the tax evasion, which, Uncle Sam didn't have, they were pretty pissed about, that all goes away as well, which, I'm not saying, it's good to steal from Uncle Sam, but I know that there's a lot of money being made that isn't being made anymore because of that.
Yeah, 100%. How do you feel about your whole lifestyle change? I mean, you happier, healthier?
I am healthier. I'm healthier, although I think it's more COVID than it is the switch in industries. I definitely continued that lifestyle throughout the tech side of things because there's a lot of networking and a lot of late nights and a lot of road trips, and so I almost felt like nightlife built me for this. Like I could
training for this my whole life.
Dude, I've been training for this my whole life, man. But I mean, have you ever left Vegas at 10 p.m. and drove to San Francisco so you could catch 3 hours of sleep and then go to a VC pitch at 10 a.m.? Yeah, that's the type of shit that Vegas prepped me for. And now I'm able to go out to San Francisco, and my two friends that lived up there allowed me to stay on their couches, which I didn't have to be at hotels. So I was able to scale up. One of those is the first New Year's Eve table I ever sold. That's how I know the guy. And he just so happened to go to San Francisco 11 years ago and work for 8 different unicorns or 7 different unicorns. And now he's my advisor on my project and lets me stay with him. He's actually, he was the one that said to get into tech when the whole Google thing imploded, that I should start my own company and code out something. And I just went down that rabbit hole. I believe he was like, he goes, if you can learn a computer language in a month, I'll take you to STK. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. I was talking to somebody as well who's also in tech. He works for Salesforce, and he was a bartender. We used to bartend, years ago, and he's trying to tell other bartenders, if you could learn drink recipes, it's really just building. So if you want to learn tech, it's really just building. You're learning, just like you read a recipe book, you read an instruction manual. And nowadays If you don't know something, Google, YouTube. Most likely it's on there.
100%. Anybody that's watching this and wants to learn how to code, go to codeacademy.com. It's drag and drop coding skills. They'll teach you, Java. They'll teach you HTML. They'll teach you CSS. They'll teach you how to code apps on iPhone. I mean, it's brilliant. And then to touch on what you were saying, there's now no code where you don't even need to know how to code. If you know how to work WordPress or do like drag and drop, like Photoshop style building, then you can build applications that work by just dragging in, dropping little pieces, and the code is written into the pieces. So it'll build its own code as you drag and drop the pieces.
Yeah, it's funny. After hospitality, I started a digital marketing company, and I didn't spend, I spent years behind the bars and stuff. I didn't spend a lot of time behind computers. I literally just dove in and taught myself everything. So I had to teach myself, SEO, PPC, social media management, algorithms. I mean, the back end of WordPress, building websites. I didn't learn it. I didn't know any of that stuff managing nightclubs. I know how to send emails.
I love WordPress because when COVID happened, we were like I said, our nightlife industry, our part of nightlife flatlined. So we're like, well, what do we do? And my business partner and I were sitting around at a bar, and I would go, well, think about all the people that are going to be out of work. Think about all the restaurant workers that are going to be out of work. Like, what are they going to do? I go, those tacos I made last night? He goes, yeah. I go, would you pay me $1 for one of them? He goes, absolutely. I turned to my bartender friend and I said, hey, if I build an app that tells you I'm making tacos, would you pay me for the food? And she goes, 100%. So for the 5 days that Cali was shut down, but Vegas wasn't, we went around asking all our friends. The day that Sizzleax shut us down, the 18th of March, I coded it with no code on the back end of our WordPress site, and then released this version of like a mapping platform with community built into the background to a beta test group to see if people would use it. We got 14% product market fit, and now we're building a better version in PHP.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It just shows you, like, anybody watching this, if you have an idea to build something and you're sitting at home because you can't work because of COVID, you can build without knowing how to code and create applications or web-based applications that'll like suit the purpose of getting you to the next step of finding that developer who can build the actual functional product.
That's awesome. And that actually goes into what I was going to say next. What advice do you have for people that are, not sure what to do and, trying to look for a life after hospitality? What advice can you give them?
I would say look to your passions that don't have anything to do with nightlife. For me, it was cooking, and I didn't even realize that until COVID hit, and I just started cooking and making food videos and doing this app. And then it just remembered that I love cooking because of my grandmother and all these things that I had done throughout the years. And I would look at what you used to do prior to moving to Vegas or prior to getting into nightlife and think, do I still do that? Is there some way I can take that and introduce technology to it? Because there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of tools out there. The tech part of building these things is not the hard part. It's getting something that people will want to use, getting something that has what's called product market fit, which is a mathematical algorithm or technical breakdown that tells you if your company will make money and will be scalable. And so if you have an idea like this, everybody's camping, everybody's going out into the woods. I've seen some new apps pop up like Airbnb for camping. I think that's cool because right now, if I go on rec.gov, it's basically sold out for campsites across the next 6 months. But Hip Camp and those type of apps, they have available campsites, and sometimes they're cooler because they're private land. It's not necessarily a national park. Bryce Canyon, like you don't have to pay $35 to go in, type of thing. So that's what I would do. I would look at what you like to do. Forget the fact that you don't necessarily know how to build it yet. And then find somebody that knows how to build it. Talk to somebody like us. I would happily be an advisor on a project or steer somebody in the right direction if it means you become successful. That's where I'm at right now because no one took my hand and brought me. Well, Jerry kind of did, but no one really took my hand and said, "Here's Silicon Valley, go raise capital." I want to do that for my friends in nightlife that have potential ideas.
That's awesome, dude. I love it. Anything else you want to add? You want to talk a little bit about Concierge Club?
Yeah, so Concierge Club is our product, our cryptocurrency. We also have the Concierge Wallet and the Concierge Pro. Concierge Wallet is a wallet that holds almost 40,000 different cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin and Ethereum, everything from the top coin in the world to the basic bottom coin in the world. And we're happy to do that because what we've been able to do is go after the soft cost in the hospitality industry, which is a little harder to do now. But things like comp bottles, comp alcohol that liquor reps give you, access to venues, things that we were just talking about with stamps and whatnot. we can tokenize that, and we can actually make it into a rewards program so that you gain access to these things just by holding the coin. And so that's what we're focused on with the cryptocurrency side of that. And then with this new app, this I'm Cooking that we're building, is the Airbnb of food, is going to decentralize your food abilities and let you know what your friends are cooking so that you can eat food that isn't necessarily going to a restaurant and dealing with other people, dealing with all this COVID stuff. You're with your friends that you already trust, that are already in your circle. And so that's, those are the two things that we're working on right now. We're also trying to launch a AI rocket company that uses AI to fly rockets in low Earth orbit, so that it can avoid the 200,000 Earth particles that flow around in low Earth orbit. And then we're also working on, we call it the Token Energy Project. It's a patent that I filed in 2018, where we collect solar from the sun and the solar panels, and as it passes through and goes into the battery, a token is created with a value connected to the value of that solar, effectively creating a supply chain for solar energy, which is then liquid on our point of sale. So, and those are sort of the things that, you don't know until you go out there and see that places like New Orleans are hurting off of oil, and renewable energy could completely remove them from that death grip that they have. And that's what's cool about traveling, is meeting all these people and seeing this stuff. So yeah, that's what we're working on. We've got one other project in the EV space, but we're kind of paused on that because I think Musk just dropped a patent on it. So we might be a little screwed on that. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. It sounds like you're super busy. I love it.
Really busy, but never too busy to talk to you, my friend, and to help the industry out and make sure that people get the right amount of information. We wouldn't be here without a lot of people that have helped us along the way, and a lot of people that you guys know, like James Scott and Kalika and Jeff and Bo and Vibe, and just everybody, like the Artisan, and before that we were at Sophia's, and Kevin Rega at Chateau, the Light Crew. Those are the guys that have supported us. Those are the guys that looked at us like, when everybody looked at us like we were crazy with a cryptocurrency in 2017 for nightlife that didn't even work because it wasn't built yet. Those are the guys that were like, yeah, come on in. Yeah, I'm curious to see what you want to do. Like, I'm going to already hook your guys up with free entry. Yeah, sure, they can pay with crypto. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing. They're like, yeah, why not? And that's what helps. So if you're watching this and you do have a venue that wants to get back online and work with crypto, let us know, because we're happy to help. But understand that nobody grows without the help of everybody else. So it's one big community, and just because COVID's hit us doesn't mean we're down and out. Just reach out.
That's awesome. Guys, we'll also put a link down in the comments as well.
Cool, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very happy to do this. This is awesome. I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, awesome, Darryll. Hey, I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you're doing, and hopefully we can help change some lives.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. Take care.